Hey guys, welcome to the Essential Show. It is your boy Stevie Hayes, and we're joined by the usuals. Obviously Jonathan and Nairi. Say what's up, my homies.
God
What's up?
bless.
What's
What's up?
up?
Yeah, it's been a while, but we are united again, and we are joined by a
Virtually.
special guest. We this is our I think this is our third interview, guys, that we've had on this channel. Yeah, this is our third interview. So, guys, please give a warm welcome to Janay Middleton, fellas. Let's clap. Let's give her a hand clap on the mic.
Hey guys,
How
I'm
are you
excited to
doing
be here.
today? Good,
I'm
good,
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to chat with you guys. It's good.
good, good. So, a couple of quick updates, okay? Jonathan has an apartment. He moved out of his parents' house. Jonathan is on his
Oh my
own.
gosh.
He's living the dream. So, Jonathan's green screen, all that will be back. But yo, congratulations, my guy, on the move.
Congratulations, bro.
Thank you. Yeah, thank
Big
you.
That's
moves,
awesome.
I thought it was time. Yeah.
of course. So we are recording this 2 days after Christmas. But so, guys, as I said, it's been a while, but obviously New Year's coming where we're here. So, Janae, okay, we have a lot of
Yes.
questions for you today. And the questions are
All
obviously going
right.
to most likely spur into other conversations. That's how it always goes. So just give us a synopsis on your life, your story, how you've come to faith, and then we'll just go from there.
Wow. Okay. So I am born and raised in Delaware. Um I attended a church called Victory Christian Fellowship in Newcastle. I don't know if you guys have heard of that church. But I grew up in that church and basically I
Mm,
was
yeah.
involved in like every activity possible, like praise dance, choir, children's choir. And so I've always been around church. I've always been exposed to like the church world, church culture. But it wasn't until like around the age of 13 when I joined the youth ministry at our church that I really realized that I wanted to have an actual relationship with God and not just continue to do a bunch of activities. And so we went to this one conference at that time called Acquire the Fire, and it was held in Baltimore, Maryland. And I remember during one worship set, the band called everybody up to the stage, and so, well, up to like the altar area. And so I went up there, and I just remember feeling like the presence of God so strongly to the point where I could not stand. Like I buckled, my knees buckled, and I fell to the ground. And it was at that moment that I really like said, okay, God, I really want to pursue this relationship. I really want to follow you. I realize that you're real, your presence is real, your love is real. So let's do this. Um, Now over time, like definitely had some ups and downs, like some struggles with commitment, struggling with like giving my all to him. And yeah, but eventually like I really found my security in him. Even when I tried other things, even when I tried to do things outside of him, it didn't feel right. It never felt like fulfilling. Um, But once I really decided that, like, okay, I'm really going to follow you, I'm really going to give my all to you, I felt my life change.
Wow, that is great. That is great.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
let's dig a little deeper on those commitment struggles, because
Yeah.
we've all gone through those. So
Hmm.
was your commitment struggles, and we can all speak to this probably, was your commitment struggles like due to your burnout, like were you like going too hard and you weren't like making a balance for anything else in between, or was it just like it just got hard and you were like, yo, like it's starting to feel like it's just too much to bear?
It was more so like seeing other people live a life that from the outside looking in, it seemed like it was so exciting. Um, because like, when you come to Jesus for real, like there's some things he's going to ask you to give and sacrifice for him. And so it was seeing other people live this life that appeared to be so fulfilling and exciting and wanting that fulfillment or that excitement. and wanting that sense of freedom where like I could do whatever I want and, you know, not really have to not really have to listen to what he wanted from me. Um, and so, yeah, it was more so like just seeing other people live and wanting that, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
makes
I,
sense.
I definitely can relate to that. I know once you
Yeah.
I know once I gave my life to Christ, I know the biggest thing, like I was transitioning into college, and I just seen everybody else
Mm-hmm.
living different kind of lifestyles, and I was just staying intact. You know, God unplugs all them things that you want to, that looks cool or fun to other people,
Mm-hmm.
but really, like, he's just trying to, like, build that obedience. You live in a better life. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like it's the hardest part, because you feel like you get like a FOMO, like you feel like you're missing out.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think that's something we all struggle with as Christians. We uh, live this life, being submitted and obedient to God and going to church and all,
Mm-hmm.
and we feel like like when we see our friends live and I guess like partying and stuff, it's like, man, like, am I missing out on something? Like, because it's just sometimes being a Christian feels isolated. You feel alone and you
Mm-hmm.
feel like you need like that attention, or you just need more friends. But in reality, it's not real. Like, even if you hang around with like a large crowd, majority of them are just gonna fall off. Jesus had more than 12 disciples.
Yeah.
He had hundreds, but only
Right.
12 stayed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I would think that, like,
Good
as
point.
even in the Christian space, right, we have to, and I'm really glad that that you dove into that, because as Christians we have to even beware of that, because you could even go to even deeper spectrum, right? Because when I look at the landscape of Christianity, right, and then people will tell me, "Oh, I'm Calvinist, I'm Reformed, I'm this predestined," all of this stuff. A lot of that comes with that idea of comparison and Christian boredom. Like, as a Christian, you can get saved and be like, and think that's it, and that kind of mindset can form into all of these different rabbit holes that you know I went down my Calvinist rabbit hole where I was like, we're all deprived, and I went down my reform we've all, like, you can go down so many rabbit holes when you just don't keep the main thing, the main thing. And me and Ari were talking about this in a small group, because now Ari asked the question. I think you asked something like, is it bad to feel like that you're spiritually, like,
Stagnant.
stagnant?
Yeah.
And we were kind of doing a bunch of research through, like, all of the
Mm-hmm.
scriptures, and we kind of come to this conclusion that God loves steady people. God wants our Christian lives
Mm-hmm.
to be steady. If
Yeah.
our lives is going like this, then we're not living the right life. That like, it is that to live a life of Jesus is to live it darn near on a straight line. And true progress as a Christian is like this. It might be little levels
It's
each time.
consistent. Yeah.
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 So, Janae, all right, next question. Okay. So, how did
Yeah.
you get, because, like, when you came out with this book, I was so interested of, like, how did this book idea come to your mind? Like, to walk us through that whole entire process. How did that happen?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I wrote a book, well, poetry book, 2021, I believe it was. Yes. And it's called A Discontentment. And really, this book came out of my own feeling of discontentment, in a sense, feeling like um, I was experiencing stagnation, just like what we were saying. And it wasn't necessarily like spiritual stagnation, but more so feeling like things weren't moving around me. And so I wrote out basically what I was feeling. So this book really came from a place of me pouring out what I was feeling, my emotions, and also inviting God in the midst of my emotions, because I have realized that, like, there's a level of honesty that we can get to with God where we can be so transparent and so open about how we're feeling with Him. And it's not for the sake of us just pouring out our our truth or being transparent, but it's like inviting him in a deeper way when we can let him know that this is what I'm feeling, like this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm currently experiencing. I find that we gain deeper relationship with him, and the love and the community and communion increases.
Mm, that is a very deep thought, Janae. You were trying to make it seem like you weren't a deep thinker. This
Right.
girl is a deep thinker, man. Okay, wow, that's a lot to take in.
We can
Okay,
Yeah,
go
that
deep.
and that reminds me of David from the Bible in Psalms.
Yeah.
Him just pouring his heart out like to God, like true
Hmm.
honesty. Sometimes as a Christian, you gotta like sometimes you just gotta be open, transparent, with 'em, like closer than even some of your closest family and friends.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know why, like, sometimes there is like a fear to be honest with God. Like we feel like we have to put on this front for him, or like we have to act like we're not feeling what we're feeling because we think it's going to offend him. But like he already knows. He already
yeah,
knows what you're feeling. So um yeah, it's just a great thing, I feel like,
I
yeah,
think
to have that honesty.
to touch on that, I think it has to do with a lot of pride. Sometimes we don't want to
Mm,
admit ourselves our shortcomings and sins, so therefore we don't really share it with
yeah.
God because we think, oh, it's not a big deal or whatever.
Hmm.
Sometimes we think
Hmm.
we can overcome things with our own strength, but we need His strength
yeah.
beyond
You also
anything.
got to think about
Yeah,
the ways that we're raised as well, right? Because for me,
that's
like
true.
the way that I was raised was like it doesn't matter how you feel, like you just got to like if my mom told me to do something, I'm gonna do it, or I'm gonna get
Yeah,
smacked up, and I feel like sometimes
yeah.
we've adapted that same kind of mindset towards God, where it's like God wants to hear everything that we are going through, whether if we're angry at him or not. And it's like when
Hmm.
in going back to what Nari said, right? When you read the Psalms, David's saying something awesome like God, like kill my enemies, and you're like, yo, like that's not even like that doesn't line up with the Bible
Yeah,
at all. Like doesn't but David's not saying that to be theologically correct. He's saying it because he's being honest about his emotions and feelings. And
yeah.
Yeah.
let's just throw a really good book plug. There's a really good book I just read called "Pray Like Monks, Live Like Fools" by Pastor Tyler Staton in Bridgetown, kind of echoing the same things that you were saying. But in one of the chapters, you just kind of painting the idea that God cares about our feelings, even the bad ones. Like and
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like I'm a Christian. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. Like I'm a Christian. I still get angry. And we have to be in touch with those feelings. Um, so here is my next question while as we're talking about these like emotions. So like have you ever been in a place to where like you feel like you're doing all of these things and like God's blessing so many people like through you, like God is working through you in the worship or in whatever, but for some reason you don't feel good. You feel like trash. Have you ever felt that way before?
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, plenty of times. And I don't mean to say it like, it's always bad, like life is always bad. No, I think that there have been moments where I have had to lead worship at a church or for a ministry, and I needed help myself, or I needed prayer, or I needed a word from God. And I think that in those moments, like my dependency on God and his spirit and his presence, I won't say it increased, but it was like I just leaned on him in a great way. Um, and so yeah, I don't think people who are called to ministry are going to have consistent moments where they're going to be without like pain. I think ministers, people who are called to ministry, like sometimes you're going to have to preach to people, and inside like you're tired or you're weary, you're hurting, something happened at home, but it doesn't take away from the fact that we do have a calling, and there's something that we have been called to do for a group of people.
Wow.
Yeah, I kind of take it back to the stagnation part where you get those feelings and then you feel stagnant and you like
Mm-hmm.
you feel like you're on a roller coaster and then you feel like now like because I feel this way inside now I'm not affecting, and then you start making it by yourself. I'm not affecting people. Then when you feel
Mm-hmm.
like you're not affecting people, then you feel like you going on a crash. You feel like, oh man, I'm on this downhill. Like I'm not me
Yeah.
anymore. But in reality, you human. Like you just having
Yeah.
you just going through whatever. Like how we do. Like we go through moments.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like, just to add on what you said, and I really like, I have I feel like for the past few years, like I've had to unlearn like being a superhero for the sake of ministry, if that makes sense. Like feeling
Right.
like I can handle it all, like I can do it all. Um like I'm called to save everybody and all these different things that you may like pick up when you're in ministry. That's something I really feel like I've had to just unlearn.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
really good. That is really good because and it's actually funny that because it's just funny how like what you're saying is kind of segueing into most of the questions that I have in my head.
Yeah.
But because I think it is hard as a worship leader or whatever you're doing, whether it's worship leading or leading like in a ministry to like give room for God to work. It's not
Hmm.
just the beautiful voice or the sound preaching or whatever that gets the saving done, but
Hmm.
you know this is just from my outlook because I've seen your Instagram. Obviously, it seems like a year ago, 2 years ago, you were like everywhere. Like you were just bow, bow. I'm sitting here, Kelvin. I'm over here, Jonathan. We're over here, and it looks like you've slowed down a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, am I right by making that assumption?
Yes. Yes.
Well,
So,
that's because
so
COVID
go.
happened.
Well, no. But I'm just saying, like this year, like it just seems like Janay's been just like kind of like coasting. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
and we are big proponents. Like we started Sabbathing, and that's been like really big
Hmm.
for us. So I mean,
Yeah.
what has been the reason why you've chose to just slow down a little bit and kind of like just chill out? You know what I mean?
I love that you bring up the Sabbath. I think that the Sabbath is amazing, honestly. But anyway,
It
to
is
answer
great.
your question, um, I think that there was some rest that needed to take place because I did find myself like just constantly going from one thing to the next. Jonathan, Jonathan's been with me for some things too, but
Awesome.
Yeah.
just going from one thing to the next and not really allowing myself to enjoy what was happening or to take in what was happening or to be grateful for it because I felt like for me personally, I'm someone who likes to progress and like I like to move on to the next thing very quickly, and so sometimes that is detrimental because I find myself not taking time to enjoy like what's happening because I'm already thinking about the next thing. But so I think it was rest. I needed to rest, and also I needed to figure out who I was outside of like the things that I was doing. Like
Hmm.
outside of leading worship, who is Janay? Like outside of
Wow.
having
Yeah.
events, but outside of, leading worship, who am I? And what do I feel like God wants me to do? And also taking time to hear from him because I didn't want to just keep doing stuff and not really, check in with him and see what God wanted for me in the season.
Yeah, I think that is a topic that needs to be had, and guys, you can definitely speak on this after me, but I think that, and I don't know if you've seen the other episodes, but I have a really big beef with like worship codes and like the worship events because I do sometimes can feel like, yeah, I have really big beef, and if
Let's
you want to hear, it, we can talk about it.
let's go.
But I have a really big beef because it just seems like I see a lot of my friends that do it. They're burning themselves out because it's like you have the church that you're worshiping at, then you're singing at your youth group, then you're doing all these extra events like 2-3 times a weekend, and it's
Hmm.
like, bro, like I get it, like it's amazing and great, but your spiritual life matters too. Your marriage mad at you. Like there's so many pastors I've seen fall because they're at so many
Yeah.
events and hotel, So, and guys, I want you guys to speak to that as well, of just the idea of doing so much in the ministry that you can burn yourself out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I knew he was gonna do this.
Yeah,
Go
after
ahead, go ahead.
you, okay. No, yeah, I mean, I can totally relate how sometimes we allow our talents and stuff to define us when we need to, you know, we find that proclamation that God has given us, which is why I was talking to you about, like, before we did this podcast. I had a vacation, and sometimes escaping and just settling down is needed, especially when you're living such a fast-paced life. um Pastor Stevie, am I sinning if I don't Sabbath on Sunday? Is that like it's not a
uh,
sin?
it is not a sin, but it is a spiritual discipline
Necessity.
that you should be doing.
Yeah. um but yeah, I mean, sometimes just settling down is needed when it's your life is just fast paced and such. So I can relate to that. I can relate to just like always constantly doing things and just losing yourself in just playing out at events, or like doing projects and such. You can really lose yourself when you're working on like your creativity. You think you're doing it for God, and you might be doing it for God, amen. But are you really doing God's will if you're not resting, if you're not spending time with family, if you're not you know fellowshipping? Are you really doing the Lord's work if you're not doing those things? You can go, Nairi. It's your turn now.
Yeah, I was waiting for
I
Nairi to go.
I was making sure he was good. Two things I was gonna say is we had a podcast before where we talked about Maverick City and the Dante Bow situation, and
Mm.
we were just discussing on that podcast how sometimes these artists can get so caught up and they're on the go, like they're on the buses, they're on planes, like they go, and it's like when in between that, like when in between those, are they taking some time with God or themselves or their family? Like, 'cause
Mm.
sometimes that could you can lose those discipline practices and it can seep into your other parts of your life unintentionally. You don't want that to happen, but it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the second thing I was going to say is what Jesus did is every time that he did a miracle or something heavily emotional, he would bounce. Like he would
Yeah.
go and
Mm-hmm.
he would go to the mount, he would go to God, and he had to get himself together because just like us, he's our example. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
we go to every time we do something, we gotta like keep going back to God. Like we gotta take that time, and that's important because if we just keep
Yeah.
going, you just going, yeah, that's
I love
it's
I love how you brought up the Jesus thing, because he would even say after he heals somebody, "Don't tell anyone I healed you," because he knew that if word got around, he would draw so much attention and that would overwhelm him. So that's yeah, even Jesus needed to understand that he's human and he can become overwhelmed, so he would hide.
So, Jonathan, are you saying that God doesn't want us to have attention? I'm kidding. I'm
Nah,
playing.
You know
I
I'm
what?
mean,
playing.
I was just thinking, like, even while you guys were talking, another thing for me was process. Like, I needed to be processed, and that required me to be removed from people and like crowds and all of that. And I don't think a lot of people understand how important process is, especially if you're like called to ministry, if you're called to like do something great, massive, like you have to go through a process. But like Nairi was saying about how Jesus walked away from crowds and he went to be with the Lord alone, sometimes people don't want to do that. Like if you're in process, that is a part of it, like being away from the crowd and being alone with God. But people want the attention. There
Yeah.
there are
right.
plenty of people who are not trying to go through process because they don't want to be alone. They want the attention. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean,
And
Paul
that's
and Paul. Sorry, go ahead, brother.
And that's why I was saying Christianity can sometimes feel isolated because
Hmm.
that alone time is. I mean, as a Christian, you kind of have to practice being an introvert. You just do.
Hmm.
You can't.
Yeah,
You can't be a Christian and not
introvert.
be an introvert.
Yeah, I mean, even Paul. I mean, Paul studied. Well, the researchers say that Paul studied for 3 years. Before he went out to preach the gospel. This stuff. Doing stuff like becoming a like, as being a pastor, right? It is not glamorous at all. I have meetings almost every day. Okay, like you have to send budgets. You got to have volunteers. Like it isn't just you wake up and you just preach a word and it just no. There's so much more that goes into it, and not just being a pastor, but I'm talking about being like a worship leader, a youth leader, or whatever. Like when you are doing these things, there, as you said, there comes a level of process that you have to go through, but there also, like, you have to be spiritually mature enough to know when enough is enough, you know? And I think it's hard. And I think that, and maybe this is why I am going the podcast route, because I don't want to be in the the worship singer circle or whatever, where I'm at every concert, because it just seems like it's too much. But that's why I really, like, lately have been praying for the people like Maverick. I've been praying for like the elevations, even though I don't agree with some of the stuff that they do. But like, you got to think about it, y'all. Like, these people are making millions of dollars off of their music, and it's hard not to get over your head. Like, it's hard not to get it's hard to not get this cause of being prideful, because you're doing these massive movements, and
Yeah.
I think that instead of, I like yes, we definitely want to judge and be honest and educate people on these things, but you know, let's not forget to love our neighbor. Like, let's not forget to pray for these people, because at the end of the day, we're going to see them in heaven. Like, I'm like, yo, Chandler, you almost sing that a gyra, homie. So yeah, it's just that is a really good point, and I really just, if you were listening, listen to Janay. Janay, rest. And Jonathan, you need a Sabbath.
Yeah. I
Like,
do want to touch on. Can I like interrupt you for a second?
go ahead, brother. I'm
The
chilling.
music industry, unfortunately, you do have to hustle a lot because like that's just like the industry. You don't really make a living out of making music. So I don't know if like Maverick City and all these co-worships. I don't know if they're doing a lot of these stuff because they're trying to like get noticed so that they can make a living off of doing it. I think maybe that potentially might be another reason why they're hustling the way they are. But I mean, it might not be healthy, but how do you make a? I guess my question: how do you make a living out of being a musician when it's like kind of impossible nowadays? Because
Yeah,
there's a
but
whole
I
like
mean,
thing behind it.
yeah. Well, bro, I mean, the way that our society is set up, I think there's so many other opportunities than just music. Like, I mean, think about like podcasts. Like I'm pretty sure if Chandler Moore, whoever started a podcast, they can make another income off of that. You could do merch. I mean, there's a lot of other business ideas that could come off of that. Me personally, I I don't know. When it comes to Christians and I'm in this, Janae, help me, all right? I'm in this weird place, right? So like, how do you feel about like the whole entire worship culture as a whole? Like, what is your outlook on that? Like if
No
we're talking
co-workers.
from a magnificent
No
scope, right? We're
co-worship.
talking about stop. We're talking about Maverick City. We're talking about all that
No
stuff.
co-worship.
How do you feel about that?
Um, I think that we have to keep the main thing. And that is, we are here, we're gathering because we want to bring glory to God's name. We're gathering because we want to encounter God. Like, we're not really here to become famous, as much as there are many groups and things that may choose that pathway. Like, they're doing things to bring themselves fame or whatever. But I think we just have to keep the main thing, and that goes for every worship group, whether they are, in front of millions of people, thousands of people, or like you're hosting a worship night and it's just you and two other people. Whatever it is, like we have to keep the main thing, because worship was never designed for us. If we really think about it, like if we really look at it, worship was never designed for us. Like we're not supposed to be the ones being entertained by worship. We are the ones that we're supposed to be giving worship to God, and he is the one that's supposed to be receiving it. It
Yeah.
was never supposed to be, let's create worship songs and worship moments so that people can feel entertained or whatever. Like it was always supposed to be for God. So that's my
I'm
take.
clipping
That's
that.
a
I'm clipping
that's a
that. You
great
spitting
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now,
yeah.
girl.
that's a great
Okay.
point.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting that one. She said, can we repeat that? She said, the worship moment wasn't created for us to have the moment. It's created to give God the glory in the moment. Wow. Okay.
So do
Wow.
you guys think that like these worship leaders, Dante Bell or Chandler, or like the other ones, do you think they're seeking more of the attention, but like using worship as what are your thought processes on like these worship leaders?
Nah,
Like, do
I
you
don't
think they're
think.
leading people to God, or are they
Nah,
just
I mean,
taking
I
the
don't think it's for
attention?
attention. I I don't think it's for attention. I just think they lack, like we were saying, like you lack the practices or spending that time with God. Sometimes like you could forget those practices, and then sometimes it can unintentionally like seep into your life. But I don't think they're doing it
yeah.
for
Yeah.
attention.
And
But they're
that's
not
the part.
pastors.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right, Nari.
I feel like I feel like some of them might do it for attention, but like it's not intentional. Like when they're like I don't know, this one Maverick City girl, like she's like
You dropped the
singing, and then she's
name.
like,
We don't do subs. You gotta say the name, bro. Don't try to hide it. You
I
know how
forgot her
I get
name.
say.
I forgot her name. It's like
Oh,
but it's like is it like Leani or something? I don't know. But
okay. Just keep going. Learn.
she's like I don't know, like it just doesn't come across as genuine, when they do the like the prophecies and stuff. It just feels more like not prophecies, but like yeah, I guess like they do, like how they have their like little spontaneous moments. I feel like the
Yeah.
spontaneous moments is like them just trying to like, oh look at me, I'm worshiping God type of thing, and it's not
Mm,
always genuine type of it's not a genuine type of worship. Sometimes it is,
yeah.
but like sometimes you can just kind of like, I don't know,
Yeah. So,
want to
you
show your
know,
vocals or whatever.
Johnny, I'll be honest, bro, because I know I used to be very harsh, and I feel like God's been softening my heart a little bit towards this topic. I do think that I we can't we don't know. We don't know these people, number one, and I think this is one of the hard parts about having a public career is the fact that when you're so public about one thing, people only think that you're doing one thing, you know, and it's like it's hard, because like when I view someone like John Mark Comer, he doesn't post that much because he's so dialed into what he's doing, But then I look at somebody like Mike Todd's style is a whole lot different than what John Mark Comer's style is. And because I don't know what Mike Todd does on a day to day, if I'm looking just at his Instagram, it could paint two different ideas. It could paint that Mike Todd is really going hard trying to reach like his like the people that God's called him to reach, or that he's a very materialistic kind of a guy. But we can't. It's hard for us to know that. But then you read the verses about that like when you're a pastor or leader, like when you're reading First Timothy, is telling us to live above reproach, and that we want to avoid the appearance of evil. So I think I I know, at least for me, bro, it is a very hard topic that I'm still in process about, and I'm still trying to figure out, because I don't want to assume that these moments aren't real, because I'm not there. But at the same time, I also want to be, like I also don't want to let everything, like slide. You know what I mean? So like I'm in like the middle ground. You know what I mean? I just don't want to. I don't want to go too hard on them if it's a real genuine moment because I can't. You know what I mean? It's hard to decipher what's real and what's not.
Yeah, and I'm sure, regardless if it's genuine or not, God is going to use it to, reach people who are genuinely, seeking an encounter for God. I'm just speaking more for the individual, like as worshipers, we need to, do what we have to do in a secret, and I mean, when we don't know, like you said, we don't.
Hey, Jonathan, can you
In
fix
regard,
your mic, bro?
testing 1 2. Can you hear me?
It's staticky. It's staticky. Oh my god, it's super staticky. Hold on, I'm about to take it off of me real quick. Oh wait, I didn't take you off. Sorry.
1 2. I had it loud. Is it good now?
It's still choppy a little bit. Just maybe try to yeah.
Okay, hold on, wait.
You all right, baby? Sorry, my dog is sitting over here. She keeps crying. Sorry. All right. Talk, Johnny.
All right. It should be good now.
All right.
Good.
All right.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, what were you saying, brother?
What did you guys hear? Because I might have to I'll start from the beginning. So, we'll just cut all that out. Or I don't know who's editing it, you or am I editing it?
Yeah, I'm an editor, bro. I'll cut it out. I got you.
So what I was saying was, as worship leaders, it's important to do what we need to do in the secret. That way, we don't come across as, I guess, arrogant or whatever. Ultimately, we don't know what people do in the secret, and I know God is going to use those moments to reach out to those people who are genuinely looking for an experience. But yeah, I mean, you're right. We don't know. We can't really make the judgment. I'm just saying though, sometimes it kind of comes across as disingenuous when you have somebody that's, I guess, because sometimes I see it for myself. I'll see a worship leader and I know what that person is doing in the secret, and when they want to show their vocals and stuff, it's you're not really it's so hard to explain it, but you can just tell. It's just, you can tell. But yeah, I mean, I know God is going to use those moments, regardless. But that's the thing. Can the Lord really always make up for our lack and shortcomings? I know God's grace can
absolutely.
He's
can
God,
move,
bro.
but
He's God, bro.
But
He's God,
but
bro.
it
the same way Darth Vader came back from the dark side, bro.
Oh my
the same
God.
way God can use anything, bro. If Anakin could come back from the dark side, bro, God can do anything. I'm telling you.
No, but sometimes God exposes you, if you're not repenting, he will
But glory, but glory still comes all that. I mean, bro, what did Paul say? Paul said people. He said there are other preachers that are preaching from places that are not good, and he said, and it makes it harder for me to preach the gospel because of these people. But at the end of the day, what, bro? The gospel is still being preached. At the end of the day, no matter of what our prideful selves are or the things that we do, bro, I can probably promise you that we've probably potted out some anger. You know what I mean? The Dante Bo thing, we were pretty harsh. I'm not gonna lie, but at the end of the day, God still reached people through us, and that's, I mean, we're humans, bro, and I do think that to an extent, to do worship, to do these things, every single person has a sense of pride inside of them, and it does get the best of us all the time, and that's for every single artist out there that is a Christian creator in any space.
Yeah, it's always going to come off like that through social media, Jonathan. We don't know what's going on in the background. We don't know what is going on, but it's not for us to know that. I mean, it's just, we kind of just gotta go out. We just gotta go off of what we see here. We just know.
Yeah. I'll add on to
But
that as well. Like, oh, go ahead, Nairi. I'm sorry.
I was saying we just don't know them personally, so it's hard to make that assumption.
That I was going to say, like, just to add on that, the scripture that keeps coming to my mind is I forget where it's at, but it talks about like before you take out the plank out of your eye before you look at
Yeah.
the speck in someone else's eye. I don't know where it is exactly. Steve, if you know it, you can just shout it out. But yes, I feel like as people who are kind of like on the outside watching these videos or watching people, like we don't really have that place or that position to really make a judgment about these people because we really don't know. We only know what they show us, and which is probably like 5%, 1% of their entire life.
I still think I'm sorry, Janae. And
No,
by
go
the way,
ahead.
it was Matthew 7. Matthew 7
Yes,
is 3.
Yeah, verse 5.
But
thank you.
like I feel like as Christians we can't always be gullible because Carl Lentz, right? Man, like people are like surprised about like when he like I guess did what he did with cheating on his wife, but like dude, there were hints. There was so many hints, and like
But
like
that's not until we saw it though. You don't make
And you
a
also can't hold him against every
nah,
other pastor out there. You know what I
yeah.
mean? That's
It's
not fair.
not
Like I
nah.
see what you're saying though, bro.
yeah.
But
It's not until we hear about.
yeah.
There's
Like
my
I
thing is
like
there's always
yeah.
hints. There's like always like little like things that you see and you're like, okay, he's slipping. Yeah, he's backsliding. Yeah, because if I'm backsliding, I would want you to be like, yo, John, you're kind of like slipping. You gotta like,
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I mean, I do, and I feel like we've talked about this a lot, but I mean, I do think that a lot of people, I mean, because right, Paul does say, I think it's First Corinthians, where he says, like, it is not our job to judge the world. It's not our job. It's God's job to judge the world. But it is our job to judge those inside of the church. So, I mean, it is our job to hold others accountable to the standard that they're supposed to be. But here's the catch. You hold them accountable to the standard that you know that they're doing. So, which means that you should know, like, you have to know the life that they're living to be able to hold them accountable. So, and that's just where
Yeah,
I have a hard time judging that, like there's certain
and
people
we
I know.
also
Yeah, sorry. Keep
no.
going.
Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Go ahead.
So I was gonna say like which requires like relationship, and we don't have relationships with most of these people that we see on social media. So I feel like you need to have an actual relationship with these people in order to even say, hey, you need to check that, or you're not good on this end. Like because we are so distant, we do not really have the full picture for what people are experiencing. So,
But sometimes they put themselves out there like that,
mm-hmm,
I get what you're saying, and I do
mm-hmm,
agree. But if you're putting yourself out there and you're sharing your life and like just things, your stories, and like Dante's Bo's case, he was in a van and he was like listening to Bad Bunny or whatever. Like if you're like putting yourself out there, then you're kind of like looking for people to like say something or question your actions.
Yeah, but I don't really think that but like I don't want to talk about people where like that's already happened because that situation's over. And what happened? Maverick City sat him down. You know what I mean for that and for all
Yeah.
of the other things. Like I need you to bring up like if you are to bring this up, you have to bring up someone like that that hasn't like you know what I mean like we would need an example of someone that's already like in the spotlight like image. Like when I take a look at someone like Chandler Moore, I like the guy. Like, you know what I mean? I think that dude is dialed in. Like he's under sound the sound teaching of Pastor Robert at Social. He tours a lot, but when he's home, he goes there and he worships there, So it's like, it just depends on the person that but I mean, I do agree though. If you do post dumb stuff, you have every right to be called out about it, because you shouldn't use the Christian platform to get your bread and then you act a fool. That's not how it should work. But
yeah, and I feel there's a lot of Christians doing that. The Montel Fish guy, the guy that I sent you, Same thing.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw that
yeah,
post. Yeah, it's
awesome.
crazy, man.
Yeah, man. But as I said, bro, I do. But this is, and I think Ruslan said this as well, and this is why I'm happy that God didn't give me a big platform at 19 or 20 or even 21, because it is hard to grow up in front of thousands of people. It's hard, you know, and I'm pretty sure that if God gave any of us a crazy platform that they have at 19 or 20, we wouldn't know how to act. So, that's where, as much as I believe as much as I believe he's in error, I can also sympathize with that idea of how hard it is. I mean, Janay, like, if I take you for an example, right? Like, you were, and I'm not trying to gas your head up. Don't think that I'm trying to, make you seem like this. I'm not. I'm just trying to be honest.
Okay.
Like, when you were leading at such a young age, usually what happens is when you're leading and you're super young, people view you as this perfect person, right? When you're young, and what happens to a lot of us is we start messing up and start growing up in front of a lot of people, and then when you do that, you can tarnish your whole entire reputation. Instead of God developing you in the dark where no one's around except like your parents and a few other people that can see you become that Christian, which was really my story a lot. That's the difference, bro. They're going through their dark room publicly.
Yeah,
And that's the
and
sad part about it.
the proverb says it that inheritance gain soon will end up not being a blessing at the end or something.
Yeah, that's why it ties back to the stagnation part where we were saying, like, you get this mindset of you feeling like you're on this roller coaster, you're feeling like you're going up, up, and up, and then you hit this plateau and you feel like you're not yourself anymore. And that's where you got to stay steady as a Christian, and
I have a question.
And the people around you.
I have a question for Janay. So Janay, so you said that was is that why you started to slow down and start resting, because you felt that you was losing yourself while being up there in the spotlight and doing the worship stuff?
I didn't feel like I was losing myself. I think it was important that I took time away to be processed and developed. Like what Steve was saying about the dark room, like I needed that. Because I guess from other people's perspective, everything was happening and everything was flashy and all that, but I needed to be processed and I needed to be taken away from all of that to really discover who God was to me and who God wanted me to be.
Yeah.
And I think 2020 was over, like that year was just like something that sort of,
oh yeah,
I mean, I definitely learned from that like taking a break and just like settling down is like, it's important. Being with the family is like really important.
Yeah, because during 2020 it forced everyone to be in that isolation. So like it forced, I speak for myself, but it forced myself to grow a lot. Like, you see the world differently when it's just you, really, like, yourself and your family, and then you learn a lot about yourself when you're in that isolation. You don't really got that much, and that just sparked an idea of, like, for people who are big, like in leading and ministry, like they're always on the go, so they don't ever get that time to spend time with God or learn, to slow down or learn about themselves, because it's always either people around them or they always got to produce a product. It's always something on your mind.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what's funny too is that 2020 is when like a lot of the pastors and stuff was being exposed too. So what that basically meant was they didn't really have that quiet time with God. They were just always in the spotlight and always doing things, so that when it came to the time to like settle down and stuff, they just didn't know how to. I remember I was watching.
But that's a pattern, though, bro.
Huh?
Yeah, I said, but
that's a pattern.
But that's And like as being a pastor now, and now that I'm like kind of seeing how it works, I think I know what happens a lot of times is that people give their life to Christ. And Janae, I know you've seen this, Jonathan and I know you guys seen this, where someone just gives their life to Christ and they get thrown on the stage because they have a talent, and it's like, yo, bro,
Yeah.
sanctification's about to start. Like baptism's about to happen. You're about to go through heck on wheels, and as leaders and teachers and preachers, we all we need to be covering over that person and not throwing them on the stage. And that's where, I also think a lot of that comes with the big worship, thing too. And even with preaching, it's like you might have a gift to speak or sing, but does that mean that it's time for you to jump on this spotlight and get attacked by 20,000 demons and all these different, and when you're on the big stage, everything comes to light, even if people aren't seeing it. You are going through it yourself, and that's why, Janae, I think that at least as I said, from my perspective, I think that you've shown a very calm character, as in you have been doing a lot of things, but I don't, how do I explain it? It's like I see you do a lot of things, but I don't see you, if that's the best way to say it. Like I see you do a lot, like I saw you do a lot, but like I was like, yo, God's using this girl, and I think that is, I think that is what we should be saying about all of these other people, is that when I see that so-and-so doing this, God's using them. Not, oh, he's dope. No, it's God is using that person in a mighty way, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, and
it's
even
character development.
Yeah, the character development is key. And even learning, like, who you are once you're done with all this stuff. I'm thinking about, like, okay, I'm into basketball and everything. So I'm thinking about, like, Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan, he I don't know what year it was that he did not receive like his ring, but he could not have received his ring because the team wasn't ready. For some reason, something wasn't working within the team or within his own skill set. And so he had to wait to receive his ring, like the following year, whatever year he ended up getting his ring. So I'm just thinking about how, like, it doesn't matter what platform, what profession you're in, whether it's ministry, sports, or whatever, like, there is a process, and we cannot be so interested in getting to that big place that we're not developing,
Great point.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
I completely bombed that Michael Jordan thing. I don't know the years and all that, so
it's all good. No worries.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, because I was just about to say, I know this is a Christian podcast, and we're keeping the ministry and worship related, but also I was going to stay on the point of like how this is also important to, like, outside in any profession, or if you're an athlete or whatever, like, it's always good to like step back, because when you're surrounded by so many people, and I speak for like someone that just always is constantly in the limelight, or an athlete, like, your true identity becomes whatever you're like around or what you see it, and you kind of get molded by it. And if you don't ever take the chance to step back, like, you always want to keep progressing through life, and then you're gonna get to a point where like you finally reach it and you achieve it, and then once you achieve it, you don't really enjoy it because you never
enjoyed the process.
Right. Yeah. So
yeah.
Next question. Okay, so we are getting to our closing time. All right, so we're gonna ask you like 2 or 3 more questions, and then we'll end it. All right. So Janay. Okay, so while we're here, because we have some single ladies that watch this video. Ladies, Jonathan is single, ready to mingle.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna put Jonathan's phone number in the description. Okay.
That's invading.
Give him a text. That man needs a wife. Okay. Sorry, Janae. So, what is your view on Christian dating? Like, as I said, it's always the man's perspective. We want a woman's perspective. What is your perspective on Christian dating? What are some things that you hold, you know, in the ideas of dating, you know, and marriage and all that jazz.
I feel like I need a more specific question because Christian dating as a whole can get into like several different
Okay.
things. Like it's very, very broad.
Okay. A more specific question, okay, is like this.
Man,
What is
she
all
a
right?
bunch of questions.
What is your like? All right, so let's say, okay, how can I word this? Okay, hold on, give me 2 seconds.
Hmm.
1, 2. Okay, I got it. All right. So, what is your view on like Christian young adult dating? So, like, are you for the idea of like dating for 2 months and getting married? Are you for getting married at a young age? Like, or are you more of the type of like you want to wait till you get older to get married? Like, what is your views on that? Because like there are a lot of people like our age that are getting married quick. You know, there are a lot of people
Hmm.
like a lot of my friends are like either like in the process of getting engaged and married, or they are already like engaged and married. We have one sitting at the bottom of me that's, you know, getting ready to, you know, for, you know, to be doing his thing soon. So
Nah,
like, you know,
Congratulations.
yeah, so like yeah, Emily cannot see this episode. But you know, but like, so so what is your, you know, idea on like that kind of, you know, on the current Christian dating culture in that area?
I feel like as as far as like the length of time for dating, I feel like you should date until you know. Date until you know that this is the person. I feel like you should. I don't know if there is a duration of time, like a specific amount of time that you should be dating until you propose. Because I can't speak for everyone's situation, but I'd say like date until you know you're ready. I feel like in our culture, when it comes to dating, the people that I have spoken to, they say like the dating pool is not, it's just not good. Um, and I don't know. I
Sorry.
don't know if it's because of like where they're looking or like, you know, who they're looking for.
that's
Because I
because we're
think,
in Delaware. That's what it is. So just a
okay, well,
Delaware.
Here we go.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
okay. I'm not gonna put like a limitation because I feel like anybody, you can find someone. There are people out here for you. I think it's just about us getting to a place where we know ourselves first before we start looking for someone.
Mm.
Because you can also start dating and you don't even know yourself. Or you can also be looking for a wife or a husband and you don't know yourself and you don't care about you. So yeah, I feel like for the dating world, it has to start with us first and then we can branch out.
You hear that, Steve? It has to start with us first. It doesn't matter if she's in church, if she's not in church, or whatever. It starts from within, and
Janae
then it
did not
can.
say that, bro. Put the context on what she just said, bro.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my last question for you is, you know, like what is your goal in life? Like what is the calling that you believe that God has called you to do in this lifetime?
Um. Wow. Okay. I believe I'm called to impact lives, specifically through like the arts and the creativity. I know that God's given me gifts in the creative space and lane, so I believe that my calling is to impact lives, and to be someone that invokes different thoughts and perspectives.
Wow, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, I think we all can align with that call because we are all Christian creatives, you know, and so
Yeah.
um yeah, that's awesome. So Janae, we thank you so much for jumping on the Essential Show. You know, we really created this podcast just to have, you know, other people's thoughts and opinions and ideas on here and to highlight more Christians that are doing a lot of good in this space. So we thank
Yeah.
you for hopping on. Now,
Thank
Reed
you guys for
Jonathan,
having me.
of course, of
This was
course.
Yeah.
fun.
Yes.
Any final comments, homies?
Janae, I love you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Um, keep at it, man. Don't stop. Keep being creative. Um, and like let's connect more, man. It's been forever, 2020 really threw things off,
Yes,
for all of
definitely.
us. So yeah, man. Yeah, keep at it.
Definitely,
Yep.
definitely. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah,
Nine.
no, it was a good conversation today. Really good points from everybody. Just glad we all could be back.
Yeah. Good. Well, all right, y'all. Thank you guys so much. Well, as I said, guys, before we do anything, please like and subscribe and ring the notification bell so you guys can know every time we post. So, all right, y'all. Have a wonderful day. Peace out.